have a PowerPoint in front of me. Are you guys seeing that too?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and read this. I'm sorry. Hello, welcome to Celebrate the Arts, brought to you by Florida Artist Group, also known as FLAG. FLAG is proudly presenting our 72nd annual exhibition and symposium. My name is Claire Radigan, and it is my great pleasure to introduce session 4, Easy DPI and Pixels, with Rosa Valladares. This presentation is being recorded for later publication and public access, and so we request that you remain muted throughout. Your questions are encouraged, but we ask that you hold them until the end of the presentation. As a courtesy, please keep your questions succinct and on topic. Please add your questions to the chat, or you may ask questions of Rosa at the end. Now, please welcome Rosa Valladares.
Thank you, Claire.
You're welcome.
Okay, so as you see, my subject is Easy Pixels versus Dots, DPI and DPI. One thing I want to mention before to start is, maybe I mentioned that to Nancy as well. I had no idea what my public is going to be. So I have no idea if you have any basis, any knowledge about pixels and dots, but this presentation is done from the very, very beginning. So like nobody knows anything, and it's going to be new for you all. So please bear with me if you know already some concepts, some knowledge, and if not, well, so then you have it there. And this presentation is going to be done for starting from concepts. We will start knowing these concepts, these terms that we constantly use when it's about pictures and changing image sizes and resizing. So it's better to know some of these concepts first, then we can see how are they applied on this action of changing the images, okay? Then I change a little bit because at the beginning in the presentation, I say I'm going to touch three programs, but I decide to go, because of time, go with the one that I use first, the one that I think it's the simplest one, then just mention the other two, which it will be Photoshop, and there is another one I think too. Okay, so all right, so as you say, my starting, we are going to start from understanding some graphic terms and of how to manipulate these pictures. Okay. Why is not moving? You are screen sharing. New chair.
Maybe hit the down arrow, Rosa.
Okay, I'm doing that and it's not moving. Sorry. Let me do it again. Stop sharing. Okay. All right. Share the screen again. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I don't know. It's not moving. What do we do in this case?
Maybe escape out of the PowerPoint.
Okay.
And go ahead and advance the slide.
I'm thinking now.
Okay,
There you go. Thank you.
here we
I
go.
think it did that. Yeah. So why do we need to check or resize our photograph? Let's start from understanding that there is two big concepts, okay? And this resizing of photographs can be done in printing and on the web. So in printing, and there is a big difference between these two ways of doing it. In printing, is working with a too low resolution, it will give a different effect, a large size effect. But printing, when we talk about printing, is going to be when your image is going to end it in a piece of paper. When we talk on the web, your image is going to stay in the web, in the virtual world, we are calling it. It's called a digital photo. And there are some restrictions to manipulate that too as well. So we are going to start by understanding the meaning of a digital photo, the concepts of what is a LCD, what is resolution, what is size, what is pixels, what is bitmap, all that, okay? So let's start for the DPI and the PPI first concepts. Understanding the computer screen. So what is what we have in front of us? What is the computer? How is that composed that allow us to manipulate these pictures? The LCD is named by liquid crystal displays. That means our computer, any 2D screen, flat screen, is composed by these liquid crystal displays. And in your computer, we see here a close-up of the display of the computer, the screen panel. We have all these little dots that are blue, red, and green, blue, red, and green, all that, the whole way of your screens. And every three of them, blue, red, and green, they are called a pixel, okay? So there are some computers, and these we have these in everything that is related to digital cameras, camcorders, video projections, billboards, computers, phones, everything, television, is all like that. And we are able to see because there is a kind of reflection with light that it allows us to see it. Okay, so that's what we have in our screen, a pixel. Pixel, LCD screens, as I say, which are all these cameras, computers, phones. Pixels is determined for pixel per linear inch, DPI, pixels per linear inch. We use this as a measurement to measure in the images in the computer. The pixels exist only in the digital world. Oh, sorry. And they are the smallest unit as we see on the computer. And together, put it all together is what we are able to see an image. So we can see here an image of a deer. You see that little square at the very end of the ear of the deer is this. So we zoom that and we are able to see all these little squares there. You see all these, each square is called the pixel. So every image is these little squares. Now we will see how these squares work to give us color. In printing, now we are talking about dots per inch, DPI. These are the dots. And it's a unit of measurement as well. And how many dots are in 1 square inch? It depends of how many do we want it to put, and depends how do we want it, our image to look like. So for instance, here we have an inch per inch, and this one is at 72 DPI, which later on we will know that that's called also the resolution, versus another inch square that it has 300. That means in 1 inch, there are just 72 dots. And in the other one, in 1 inch, we have 300 dots. The space, the actual physical space of 1 inch, have not changed. What it changed is what do we have inside of them. And that is what it makes a big difference of how we would see images. Okay. So the less DPI, we will see more dots, the more DPI we will see less. Now, how many pixels is a dot? We see the dots here, which we saw before, and the pixels are actually these 3 dots. Okay, so that we are talking when we print. When we print, we will see little dots. But when we talk about pixels, these dots are not dots any longer. It is a square that will contain these 3 colors, these 3 dots. So LCD are made up of pixels, and pixels are made up of dots when we go to printing. What is DPI in printed? Now we are going to explain a little better. When we are talking about printing, my computer is too sensitive to my touch. We usually hear, oh, 300 DPI, 300 DPI. That's a very often measurement that they use for printing. So what is this 300 DPI? Technically, when you can print and at any DPI, it doesn't have to be the 300 DPI. Okay. For posters that are designed like a distance, a different distance, or for one that is designed, some images that you have to see to the arm length, for that one, usually we use a 300 DPI. But if you are going to do like a billboard, a big scene that it has to be seen far away, we don't use 300 DPI because we won't be able to see. We usually go back when we see big images. We have the tendency to go back to just see the whole image. For those big ones that are far away from us, we use less DPI. So if we see here the example, usually the 36 DPI is less dots in the same space, 72, you can see 300. So that means in this inch by inch, we have 300 dots. In this one, 72, in this one, 36. All right. So depending on how far we see the image is how we are going to apply the resolution that we need. Usually when we have our phone, we see right there close to us. So that means that has to be the inches, the pixels has to be very, very tight and has to be a lot of them in order for us to see very well, very conformant, especially the borders of the image. Okay. You can use, you can print using even 1,000 DPIs or even 1 DPI, but depending, you won't see much advantage between 300 and 1,000 unless you are a professional photographer. Then you need to use more details. You need really all the scale of degrees, grades and every scale of colors. So going back a little bit to history, we have computer graphics. And in the 60s, the computers were using vector graphics, which were just images, straight images, all that. And it used less memory, but it came with unrealistic images because it wasn't able to shape all these rounded objects, organic forms. They were hard to manipulate those ones. In the late 70s, 80s, we have the raster graphics that were used on television. It represents also images on the computer by using bitmaps. These bitmaps were stored in the computer memory, and these bitmaps are represented on the screen by pixels. A pixel that is represented 1 by 1 or more bits. So how is that the use of pixels in that way? We have 1 byte per pixel, and what we are able to see, that was black and white images. Remember when we have TVs, black and white, it was just that concept. 1 bit per pixel, black and white images. Charles Chaplin, for instance, those movies, they were just black and white. We weren't able to see any gray tones. Everything was just black and white. Then it came to use 4 bits per pixel. Now we had 16 grade scales. So then we have black, whites, and some grades. Then we got 8 bits per pixel. Oh, now we are talking 256 colors that are displayed there in your screen. We have now 24 bits per pixel, which means we have more than 16 millions of colors in your screen. And nowadays, it's 32 and plus. And with 32 bits per pixels is included 24, which is 16 millions of colors, plus what is called alpha channels, which is going to give you the transparency colors. So a full screen image is depending on how big is your computer, and when you buy your computers also you say, what is the resolution? Yes, in order to see how tight are the images and how sharp you are going to see your image. We have millions of pixels in that screen that allow you to see a sharper, a better image. Usually Photoshop, usually the Apple computer, people that work with images, they always look for that. And since the 90s, as I said, personal computers can manage videos and memories with very high resolution of these bitmaps, okay? Now we have here an example. How do we see? A computer that has 16 pixels, it contains just those 3 colors, red, green, and blue. And how is this pixel show the color, the image? It's like that, just exactly like that. You see the colors have a little bigger passing between each and some lines that are cutting colors, yes? When we have the 24 pixels plus the transparency that is added, now look at how we see the pixel. There's a huge difference of this pixel versus this pixel. So now we are able to see the images a lot better, a lot better. There is no cutting in between colors. There is no cutting in between shapes. It's everything very soft. So what is DPI? We say dots per inch. It's the number of individual ink dots that a printer can place in each line, linear inch. So we are talking printing, DPI. So here on the left, you see the pixels. On the right is the same image, but printed with dots. So you can see the dots there. Actually, in the image lower, also, you can see here how the pixels are there and how the dots. So we are talking printing. DPI is printing when your image goes to the paper. So for a printer, we have limited colors. When we are going to print images on paper, we just use 3 basic colors: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. I don't know if some of you know about this, but it's just those 3 colors plus black that is used to do all the colors in the printing. To obtain all the colors, the image needs to be printed on a dot pattern. You see how the dots go one on top of the other one. That's how we also get transparencies, or that's how also we get mixing the colors. We have a blue color, and usually in printing, you print first the lighter colors and then the darkest colors. So if you print yellows and then on top you print the cyan, then you are going to get all the oranges. And depending how do you use your cyan, magenta, and yellow, they can be also transparent colors or not, depending on what are you going to get in your printing. If we use an inkjet printer, this the ink, the dots that represent in each ink is going to be multiplied depending on the DPI setting choose. As I said, the photographs, which are fine art prints, they usually go no longer than 1200 or 2400 DPI. Some notes, we just see here, the magnifying the dots, and this DPI tells actually the definition of the printer. The higher DPI, the better print that you are going to obtain. As a rule, to print, you don't need really more than 300 pixels for us. Unless, as I say, you are a professional photographer. So here again, dots per inch is also the correct term for printed images. A higher DPI means a higher quality. So we can see here an example of a lower DPI. Just here is how the color is displayed. And you can see there are some breaks in between this cyan and yellow. Yeah. With a higher DPI, then you lower the, you shorten the space, and plus you obtain a higher resolution, which means a lot better passing of the color. Smooth, your images are going to be very smooth, very nice done. Now, DPI, we are talking pixels per inch. Now we are changing and we are talking about dots, images, virtual, okay? A pixel is usually a square, usually. Every pixel has a color, and all the pixels put it together is how we make. It's kind of the impressionist. The idea of the impressionists in art, it was put with the brush just the color in each, when they were painting. They weren't mixing colors. They were just painting, putting colors next to the other one, next to the other one. And then from far away, you got to see the whole colors of all the colors as well. But it wasn't any mixing of colors. It was just the dots. Pixels had kind of the same idea. So we are talking about computer graphics. In the computer screen, it's typically reserved to the dimension of an image and is stored in a file or view on the screen. So you store your image in a folder, yes? And then from there, you can take it and you see in the screen, this image never will, well, not never, you can do it later on, but this image that is in the screen is not the one that is printed on paper. It's different, it's just on the screen. The monitor, some of the monitor display images at 72 PPI, which is talking pixels per inch. The pixel dimensions can be determined by multiplying the width of the image of the pixels by the PPI, and then the height by the PPI. That's how you will get the dimension of your image. Varies by display size, so because it's based on how close your eye can see this image to be read. Smaller devices typically, as I was saying, use higher PPI because they have to be folded right here closer. The notes we have pixels count as a width and a height. That's what they ask you. What is the size, width, and the height? Pixels per inch is the correct term for pixel density on a computer. The pixels, the height, and vertical, the width, also is what is defined the resolution. So in simple terms, summary a little bit, an image on the screen, this is a little math here. An image on the screen that is 720 pixels wide, it will take up to 10 inches of linear screen. How do we get that? You have your 72 pixels wide, and they are telling you that it has 10 inches. So the only thing that you are going to do is multiply the 72 per 10, and it's going to give you the 720 pixels. Okay. If you try to print this image on the printer using the 72 DPI, it will result, remember the 72 dots, it will be very choppy. It will be the image won't be really clear and nice. So a good printed image, now we are changing, a good printed image will need to be printed at 300 DPI, dots per inch, which means that using these 10 inches across the screen, what you are going to do is going to, when we use it with 300 DPI, is going to reduce your image size to a 2 inches, 0.4. How do we do that? The 720 pixels, you are going to divide it by 300. And that will give you the size of the original 10 inches. So the 10 inches is on the screen, but on paper, when you print, because when you will print, you have to change the DPIs. You have to change it at 300. Then it will come very low. So another example, we have an image that is 1,200 pixels at 72 DPI. We are talking the image in the computer. It will give us a 16.6 inches size on the computer, okay? On paper, the same image will be 4 inches wide. Why? How? Because those 12 or 1,200 pixels will be divided by the 300. So you divide the DPI versus one of your size, and that's what you are going to get, 4 inches. That will be the result when you do it in printing. So the image that you see in the screen, when you're printing, it won't be exactly the same size, talking size-wise. What determines the size of this image is 3 main factors: pixel dimensions, image format, and color, okay? The more pixels that are present in the larger file size, it will be the better for your printing. Should we stop here and some questions? If someone have questions? I don't see questions. Someone have questions? No?
Actually, yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me? This is
Yeah.
Abby. Can you,
Sure.
when I'm looking on my computer, it does not typically tell me PPI, even if I'm in a resolution variation or whatever. I'm usually working in MBs. So how do I translate if I've taken a photo, I know what the MBs are, and I can adjust it because they'll tell me you can only be a max. So when it lets me adjust the photo, I can tweak the mid, like say the width, and it'll automatically do whatever it needs to the height if I have a max. But is there a way to translate megabytes in a picture to expected pixels?
What do you have, a Mac or a Windows computer?
I'm working on Windows, and but typically with my iPhone, my photos come over and I can see the size readily. I know if it's a high MB or a low MB, and I can go in and I can say I want to adjust it. So say it's a 2400 by 3300. I can say I can change it. But if I'm just looking at the MBs, do I get any idea of how big? How to translate it quickly?
The number that you see are the pixels. The resolution is the DPI. We change DPI to DPI resolution for printing. But when you have it in the computer, in your screen, is the pixels are the PPIs.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I always had something similar, I think. Sometimes I have, and I'm wondering if it's the mode I have the image opened up in my computer, whether I have it in the RGB or I have it in something for the computer, which would not be printing mode. So I think there's times where I see the ability to do a PPI when I open it up and try to fix it. And I believe it's generated by the mode I have that picture in. Is that correct or no? Like sometimes I see PPI, sometimes I see DPI as an option.
Well, if you see DPI, that means that image has been done and prepared to be printed.
Okay,
If you see pixels, PPI, that means it's just to be able to see it in the computer. It's not prepared to be printed. I'm not sure how is the way that you see it, but later on, I'm going to show you how to also check in the image in your computer, especially in Windows. You will see the resolution and the DPIs.
right. When I open it up in Photoshop, it offers a section up there to open it or see it in 2 modes.
Yeah,
One is for the print mode and one is for
just to look in the computer. When it's the one just to look in the computer is going to be PPI, and the one that is for printing is going to be DPI, especially in Photoshop.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I hope. So now today's computer displays huge range of pixels, especially from 10,024 to 40,096 pixels wide, and also 768 to 3,072 pixels inch. So with 1920 and 1080 being the most common, so usually you will hear that 1080 are in TVs. Yes, they say, oh, they posted in the commercials. Your screen is 1080, which means it's a huge billions of pixels in that side of your screen. Usually, also, this is going to happen when someone, I don't know if it happened to you, when someone sends you a picture and you open in your screen, sometimes if the screen is so blow up that you don't get to see the whole image. That means that image has been worked in a better computer, in a computer that holds more pixels than yours. And that's why when you send it to your screen, you just see one part of the image and you have to click fit on the screen in order to see the full image. Like in this example that I have, you see the huge eye. It's a whole face. But when I transfer the image, it just came to that part of the eye. So, and I had to shrink the image to be able to fit in my screen. That's how the pixels work in different screens in computers. Okay, so if it comes a big image in your computer, just shrink it. Click fit to image to screen. Now, what are we talking here is resolution. We say more resolution, a better quality. Yes. The camera resolution refers to the amount of information of an image. And we call that also density. More concretely, 2D dimension measured in pixels, and then all this amount of pixels, when they are just passing the millions, then they are called megapixels or BP. How many pixels can it be in one linear inch? For instance, you have 800 by 600. And how do we read this? Remember, one is the width and the other is the height. The first number is the height and the second number is the width. Okay. For 14 and 2160, the first number is the width and the second is the height of the image. So we see here again the display of 1 by 1 and the low density. That means in this square that we had 10 pixels, we are just using 1 by 1, 10 pixels, and it's called the low density. 10 pixels per height and width, so we have a total of 10 by 10, yes? In this medium density, we have more pixels in the same size squares, same square size. We have high density, which is adding more pixels in the same side, the same pixel. We are talking 1 little square, 1 pixel. So imagine that in 1 square inch, we are adding more pixels. And that is a result, if you think about the whole length and width of your computer screen, how many pixels we will have at the end of the whole for to work for your image. So a low density, when we put an image, is going to be seen like this. It's not very obvious, it's not sharp, the image. In medium density, which means we are in more pixels in 1 inch, square inch, we have a better border. At high density, we are more, then we have a lot better border. So the amount of detail you capture in an image, whether it be a photo, a scan, or graphic, is directly related to its resolution. The higher resolution, the more detail, the more pixels that you're putting in there, okay? So for a big image, as I say, you may need quite a lot of pixels to provide a zoomable image of something with a lot of details. Talk about like a big picture, yes? Like, for instance, we see I have my image. Each square is a pixel. What do? We are so close. Can you really see the definition of the eyes, whatever the feature of the face? No, that's what you have to do. Yes, Nancy, like Nancy, you have to go back. But if we go the other way around, we zoom in, we see more details, the pixel, pixel, pixel. That's how it's composed, every single image in your computer, by pixels. Now, let's watch this. Let's watch this. This video. It's a very short video. Come on.
Before you go to bed tonight, eat 1/2 teaspoon of this before 10 p.m. and electrify your metabolism by over 728%. Hello, welcome to 2-Minute Design. I'm Dave. Today we're going to talk about image size and resolution. This is a pixel. These are 10 pixels, and these are 100 pixels. So our image is going to be 10 pixels wide by 10 pixels high. And these are called pixel dimensions. Now let's say that this is 1 inch, and here we have 10 pixels per inch. This is called resolution or pixel density. If you want to create a circle, you would change the color of these pixels. To have a smoother circle, you need a higher resolution. Let's try 20 pixels per inch. Now we have a much smoother result. But we're still working within 1 inch here. What if we want to work with 2 inches? We just increase the size of our image, it's still going to be the same because the resolution is now smaller. We now have 5 pixels per inch instead of 10 pixels per inch. And the pixel dimensions are still the same, 10 pixels by 10 pixels. So we just learned something here. Increasing the image size does not increase its resolution or pixel density, and it does not affect its pixel dimensions, the total number of pixels in our image. It's just like a rubber band. If I stretch it like that, gets bigger, but it still has the same number of atoms. It still has the same mass. However, if we increase both the size and the pixel density, then we'll get a clearer circle. See, now the image size is 2 inches by 2 inches, and the pixel density is 10 pixels per inch. What about the pixel dimensions? Well, how many pixels do we have now? We have 20 pixels by 20 pixels, so this number has increased. As you can see, we need to add pixels to our image if we want to make it more clear. Let's take a real photo and open it in Photoshop. Now let's go to image size. Here where it says dimensions, you can see that this image is 4,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels. Our image is made of this number of pixels, and the resolution is 180 pixels per inch. Take sure resample is unchecked, and we can use the width and height values to change the print dimensions of the image. Let's set our units to inches. Now, if we increase the image size, the total number of pixels will not be affected because the resolution is decreased. Let's set it back to 180 pixels per inch. And if we check resample and make sure this link is activated to maintain the aspect ratio, and then increase the image size, and Photoshop will add these pixels. You can see the dimensions here are increasing, and the resolution will remain at 180 pixels per inch.
All right. So going back to, let's keep going. So we need to change pixels and resolution if we wanted to obtain a better image. Usually, not all the time. So camera, for example, that captures 16,000 by 1,200 pixels produce an image with a resolution of 1.9 million. So our cameras, so now we are talking the photo cameras, our cameras have already determined the pixels that they are coming with. And when how do we get these 1 million pixels that it will be rendered to the next one, the next unit number, which it will be a 2 megapixels camera? You multiply the vertical and the horizontal dimension, and that will give you 1.92 million, which it will be like rounded to. I give you here a little table with some of the most usual dimensions. So we have a 4x6 in a 300 PPI that will have the pixel resolution of 12 by 800, and it gives a total dimension of 2 mega. How? Multiplying this 1200 by 800, we get the 200. Or we have the measurement, we have the measurement in inches, and we have the measurement in pixels, but we don't have the PPI. How do we know what is that PPI? How do we know that what is the resolution? Then you do the other way. You divide 4 divided, or 1200 divided by 4, and you will get 300. And the other dimension should be the same because we are talking about 300 resolution for one image. So you would do the same, 800 divided by 6, and you get the 300 resolution. So by knowing this is when they give you, sometimes people just give you, okay, give me an image of 300 PPI or DPI. In that case, they are not giving you really nothing because you don't have an idea what pixels or what size are you talking about. You need to have at least two dimensions, the PPI and the pixels, or the PPI and the inches, or inches and pixels. Then you can get the other information. Okay. Change image. There is 2 ways actually. And PCSD, sometimes you see that PSD, that's a term that is created by Adobe Photoshop. They use that because in Photoshop, you create images by also applying different layers. So when you sometimes you have the option to save that image with different layers, and that's what is called the PSD, which is going to use a lot more memory of your computer. Or at the end, you can flatten all those layers, and then you will save that image, which won't allow you to work again in that image. So we usually flatten the image when we are done with the image. That it will give you the higher resolution and less space. So how to change image size? There is 2 ways to do it. By scaling the image, meaning playing and working with the resolution, or by cropping the image. And by cropping, you can preserve the resolution, but not the actual size. You cropping that actual size of your image, even if it's for the screen or if it's This is going to be for printing. Okay. This is in window, is give you the steps, but everybody, I mean, whoever has the window know how to crop, and in Photoshop have a different way to do it too. Actually, Photoshop is better because in Windows, they can, depending on the brand of your computer, have a different apps to do this managing of pictures. Now, saving, how to save your image. We have three mainly different ways to do it. And you, in general terms, when you have an image, it's better to save the original and make a copy, and you work with that copy. So then you don't lose your image, and you don't lose the original resolution and size and detail that came the image with. Okay. So JPEG, commonly used as an image compression, digital image compression. When you create an image, or you have an image in your camera, the option that you have is to save it in JPEG, which it will reduce the quality of the image, but it will create a smaller size of the image. So depending on what you want to do. It's useful for using in digital cameras. It takes good quality pictures, but it depends what do you want. One thing is, the image is compressed in JPEG, you cannot uncompress that. You already have it that way, okay? TIFF is what is called lossless image format. So the pixels are modifying the image, are not modified in the pixels, and can take the whole information that it came with, better than when you use a JPEG, okay, or JPEG. Usually results in a larger image size, and and also you use what is called LCW or ZIP, that both are lossless compression methods. So you can also use these in order to work with the TIFF. The TIFF can be shrink and lose no data, or can be very large and same thing, okay? Doesn't lose much data, or almost not. RAW is the one that are used by professionals. That one, when you save on that, nothing is lost. Contain uncompressed and unprocessed image data. So it's allowed, usually for professional, it just capture every single detail that you have. But they use large amount of saving. When you save, it's a large image. It's larger than the JPEG. So depending for what do you want to use for your image, you will pick how do you want to save. You also, some programs don't offer to save TIFF and RAW. It's just JPEG and PDF. And the most common ones that we use for writing, the words. But Photoshop does, Adobe does, Illustrator, Java, all these programs for manipulate images, they give you all those options. How to change DPI on an image. Working with an image, you will think that if you need to print, then it's a good idea first to print, to know your resolution before you resize it. What resolution do you want to apply in your image? Okay, that will help to know, give you an idea how big or how small your print is going to come with. Now, remember they were talking about resampling in the video. Resampling is a way to lose some information, some data from your picture. So resampling, it depends what do you want to do also. You can use it or unuse it. When you decrease the number of pixels, you call downsampling, and it removes some data. Okay, when data is removed or added to the image quality will degrade to some extent. Also depends. Now, you will see here a video that is talking more about resample and how it's going to look. Hey. Seems that I have a
Document image size is found under the image dropdown.
hold on.
Image.
Let me go back.
Document image size is found under the image dropdown. Image size, or on a Mac, that would be Option Command I. On a PC, that's a Control Alt I.
1 second. I don't know.
Let's take a look at this panel here.
I'm not sure.
What is most important is the total number of pixels. That determines the size of your image. This was shot with a Canon 7D, and it's the 18 megapixel camera. The 18 megapixel camera gives 5,184 pixels in the width, 3,456.
Okay, let's do it again. I'm not sure why.
Rosa, the internet speed that's going up from your location up to Zoom might be having a problem.
I'm not sure why
Maybe you
it's
could-
doing this.
Maybe you could just put the link into the chat and then people could watch it later.
All right. Well, let me close this and open again. Okay. All right, let's see what's going on.
Document image size is found under the image dropdown. Image size, or on a Mac, that would be Option Command I. On a PC, that's a Control Alt I. Let's take a look at this panel here. What is most important is the total number of pixels. That determines the size of your image. This was shot with a Canon 7D, and it's an 18 megapixel camera. The 18 megapixel camera gives 5,184 pixels in the width, 3,456 height. Let's cancel out of this and switch to this other image of bird here. This was shot on a different camera. This was a Canon 7D Mark III, which is slightly larger. Let's go to image size. The Canon 7D Mark III 20 megapixel camera, and you'll see that we have a few more pixels in the image size, so it's 5472, so slightly bigger than the one shot on the regular Canon 7D. Often you hear people refer to the size of an image based on resolution. Sometimes you'll hear them say something like, oh, I need you to get me a 300 DPI image size of that. Well, if somebody tells you that, they don't know what they're talking about. First of all, when we're talking about pixels in our image size, we're talking about pixels per inch. That's DPI. That's referred to as DPI. If somebody tells you they need an image in a DPI resolution. The DPI stands for dots, and that refers to the resolution of ink on paper. So it's irrelevant here. So the next thing to understand is that resolution is only relevant when you print that image on paper or some type of a substrate. The size of the file is determined by the total number of pixels. The resolution is how many pixels will be squeezed into a linear inch of the image when it gets printed. So this particular image is set to have 300 pixels per inch when it prints. If I change these settings here where it says pixels to inches, it'll show us that at 300 pixels per inch, this image can print 18.25 inches wide by 12.1 inch tall. Let's switch to this smaller one here and see what we get there. So I'm going to go to image size. So this one, the resolution is set to 240, which again is only relevant to print size, not image size. If I uncheck where this says resample, resample will actually change the number of pixels in your image if you change any of these numbers. If you uncheck this, changing these numbers won't change the total number of pixels. So let's just change this to 300 so that it matches the preferred image. Now, this is a slightly smaller file. So at a resolution of 300 DPI, it will print a document that's 17.25 inches wide. Most often, we talk about creating images in a resolution of 72 PPI when we're making something to put on a website or put online somewhere. So if you don't have this sample box checked, so it won't resize it and change the resolution to 72 PPI, it changes the print size, but it doesn't change the file size. This is still the same exact size file it was when this was set to 300. So again, the PPI is irrelevant. It's the total number of pixels. Now, if I turn on the resample, now when I change these numbers, it's going to change the number of pixels. So if I take this and I change it to 72, it made a much smaller file size. Now we only have 1244 pixels in width. If I was to send this to a printer, right now the way it's set up, it would still print the same size document. It would print a 17.25 inch wide document, but there would only be 72 pixels in every linear inch. Again, if I take this back to 300 where it was originally, still the same document size, printing times, but there's almost, well, there's a little more than 3 times the number of pixels in a linear square inch, which will give you a much higher resolution and much finer looking print. I created this with nice, easy round numbers for math challenge folks like myself. So this is 3,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels. And if I, it's set at a resolution of 100. So if I change the view here to inches, we can see that at a resolution of 100, we'll get a print size of 30 inches by 30 inches. But if I change this to 300 without resampling it, I'm going to keep the total number of pixels the same by turning this off. I'm going to change this to 300. Now the print size of the document is 10 inches by 10 inches because we have 3 times as many pixels every square inch. So even if I say okay here, it doesn't change anything in my document because all I did was change the relationship between the print size to the number of pixels in an inch. Let's go back to image size here. Now this time I'm going to resample it so you can understand what happens when you throw pixels away. So I'm going to turn resample on and take this down to 1 inch instead of 10 inches. So instead of having 300 or 3,000 pixels document, we'll only have 300 pixels document. So we're throwing a lot of information away. I'll say okay, and you'll see this file get much smaller. Now, as I zoom in on here, you'll start seeing this kind of ragged edge. This is what we call rastered or jaggy edges. Let's scale this down even further. Let's take this 1 to 1 inches, 1 inch by 1 inch at 100 pixels per inch. So now we only have 100 pixels total. Let's see what we get there. Now you can see this is getting really ragged looking. This is what happens when it gets scaled down and saved out, is that you start seeing the pixels along these edges. And you can't get that back. You cannot go back to the original place. If I go to resize again and take the pixels all the way up to 3,000, which was the original size, and say okay, Photoshop's going to have to make up pixels to fill those spaces where they were lost. I'll do a command or a control 0 to fit in window. And now we're back to the original document size, but you can see that the edges are much softer than they were originally, because upscaling an image, Photoshop has to generate new pixels and it can't recreate them exactly like it.
Okay. So resampling is something that you need to consider, also. I think time is passing, so I'm going to, and Nancy is going to put the presentation to be seen for a month. So I'm going to skip a little bit some of the things. And let's go there, remember, and then I'm going to show you this program. Understanding the camera resolution, the pixels are the dimension of a digital photo, okay? 800 by 600, 1500 by 20, so those are the pixel dimensions. The term pixel is also referred or used for the sensor elements on the digital camera. A camera with a higher resolution means more pixels to work with and a better image, of course. So remember, you can produce a printout from just about any image. And the more you blow it up, the more that you degrade the quality of the image. You don't need more than 300 DPIs for printing. How many image pixels do you need depends on the size of the print you want to make. As a rule, 300 pixels per inch is going to be good. Photopea, I want to introduce to you to Photopea. It's a program that I use because I don't have Photoshop, I don't have a Mac, I just have a window. And I found that this is a very good, how do I go to the website again? Here. So I have Photopea. And what are you going to do? Once you open Photopea, you have different ways to start. You can go with a new project, you can go with file and put open, and it's going to give you to whatever. I have my desktop and my image is called images. Parallel detail, open, loading, and your image is there. Or you close that, And I just drag my image from my screen to here. Come on. It's not, there you go. There, now. So you have those two ways to go. Once you have your image here, you can go image and image size. And you have it there. There you can put DPI. We have resample, okay? You can, let's say that I don't have pixels, I just have the numbers. So then I'm going here, I have the inches. I change the inches to 6. You have to have, if you have here the ratio and you click it, when you click, let's say I want the image to be 5 by 7. So 7 width, and 5 high, and at 72. And it allow me to do it. If I put the ratio, it won't allow me to do it because it will try to keep maintaining what is the ratio that it's supposed to have in the computer, yes? So if you exactly want to manipulate your image at the exact number that you wanted, you will have to unclick the ratio and then you can use whatever size you wanted, okay? If you, and these inches, you work with inches and you work with pixels. It doesn't matter when you have the resample. But remember, resample is taking away a little bit, some data. If you click and say, no, I don't want resample. Then you won't be able to use everything. You won't be able to use pixels. You are just going to be able to work with inches. Okay, then you just click OK, and you have your image. To save your image, you are going to export, and you have now the options to save. You have GIF. GIF is another compressed way to do it. Usually we do JPEG. Here we have this. Here we have VL. We have even RAW. All these options you have to save, depending on what you want to do. And we are just simple, so we just need a JPEG. So you have it there. It will come out this screen, and when you have the quality, you are going to just put 100 because we don't want 70%. We already are taking some data from our image, so we want 100. Okay, verify that you have the 18, 7, and 12. What is in pixels that you have from your image, and then you click save. It will come here, and you can just go put it in your screen, back to your screen, or from there go back to whatever document you want. Very simple. You can also crop. You can do almost anything that you want. It's the same like Photoshop. It works with layers as well.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
And I'm just going back. I am not a fancy camera person. I just use my iPhone. So my biggest issue is, especially on paintings I've gotten a quick picture of and they've been sold the next day, I may only have 2 pictures. That's all I have.
I'm sorry,
I can't
I cannot hear you.
I'm sorry. So for instance, if I've painted a painting and I'm trying to do a picture of it, often I get it.
Am I the only one who has a problem with the audio?
I can hear.
can
I'm
hear.
wondering if it's because you have the video screen up, Rosa.
Like
so-
if you mute you for just a second, I'll ask the question, then I'll mute.
No, again, but I don't have the videos open. I just have
Oh, right.
the Photoshop. I mean the Photopea. I mean, ask the question.
So my question is, for my photography issues, it's usually trying to make a picture of a painting Sometimes the paintings are selling the next day, or I have to varnish it. So I get the picture before it's varnished. But now I only have 2 pictures of this painting. It's been sold. That's all I have. I always keep the original on my phone. My question is, if I have the best picture, I try to keep a portfolio on my phone as well. Since when I've loaded them to my PC, they have been reduced somewhat going into JPEGs. And sometimes I'm astonished. Some are very small when they come in. Sometimes they're larger than I expect to. When they come into the computer, they're not usually what I think they're going to be as far as size. If I had to, for instance, send one to a printer, am I better off sending them directly from my camera versus sending it to them directly from my PC, because it has already altered aspects of that photograph once it was loaded onto my PC? In other words, should I perhaps, like if I was having something professionally printed, actually send it from my camera? There's a better chance I'll have a higher resolution still embedded in the camera.
What I will do is I will send the email, because in your camera, I mean, from your phone to your computer, something happened. So the way that you should do, first maybe ask the printer, but the printing store, but otherwise send the one from your camera, but via email. Don't send it, don't put it from your computer and then from the computer send it to them.
So you're confirming that the original resolution that's still living in the camera is probably a higher quality, which means I can also go into the memory of the camera and I could conceivably try to make it higher resolution with the software on my camera and then load it to the PC a second time. Because most of the edit software on the computer, on the iPhone, using it, and I have a good iPhone, but just anyway, most of the edit software does not specify resolution. But I'm thinking it may be using different language. So like, for instance, if I shoot something in HDR, I'm supposedly getting a higher resolution. If I edit a picture that I have in the iPhone, I'm just using that as an example, one of the things it gives me is noise reduction and also sharpness, which I'm not sure. I've always been afraid to use it. I was not sure if that would change
my
the
audio,
resolution.
I don't know, my audio is not good. I cannot hear you, but what I'm going to recommend is don't manipulate your picture in your camera, in your phone. Don't manipulate that. And if you want to manipulate and you have the option to do to give a better resolution, then you have to put it in your computer and manipulate your picture and send it to the printing via email. Otherwise, just use the emails that you have in your phone and send it to the printing via email. Don't send it via text because they won't be able to manipulate that image. That will come very poorly. So you have to put it in the email and send it via email.
Thank you. That also answered the question well, that the text would have also reduced the resolution. Thank you.
Hey, Rosa, I think we're getting too lengthy now. I don't know whether it's going to be able to record.
I'm going to close, as Sarah said. Talk to me now.
I think we're getting to the point we need to close. So
yes.
Can you wrap it up as soon as you can?
Yes. Yeah, and it was the noise is that I should have done. Hold on. Where are we? We were almost at the end. One thing I want to show you is how do you see your images or the information of your images in your computer? Here. Let's say I have my image here. Everybody's is able to see my desktop?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So then right click, I have a window. So you just go right click in there, you go properties. Someone send you a picture, yes? And you don't know what is the information of that picture. You go to properties, then you go to details, and it will come there. What is the dimension of the picture? What is the width, the height, and the DPI. So PPI is going to be here. It's your pixels. It has 1800 by 1200 pixels PPI, and it has 72 DPI. That means it's ready with 72 to put in a printing. So you have the size, the dimensions, the pixels, and the resolution in there. And the other thing is just hold it there for the there, and there is giving you the total size, the size that is giving you the information, how it saves this image, the dimensions again in pixels, and that's the size. We are talking different, the size, this is the full size of the image, 1 megabyte. All right.
Okay.
So that's it. Then I put some steps of how to do it in Photoshop for the ones that have Photoshop. It's going to be there, so you can just go. I don't have Photoshop in me, so I don't have any ways to do it in for you. And that's it. Thank you so much. I hope this will give you some information and help you. I think that Photo P is the easiest. In my way, I found different other ones. They have a little problem. You need to know a little more. So for me, Photo P is a very simple one, as you saw. You can play there too a little bit and you will get your way. It's the easiest to change.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can you send us this PowerPoint via email?
Nancy is going to have it posted. I don't know, Nancy, where they can see it for a month.
We're going to put this all on. This is being recorded. If we can transfer the recording because of the length, we're going to put it on our internet, YouTube, and so you should be able to access it then. But I think that if you access it, then just go to some of the everything she got from this for this presentation she got on the web. So you ought to be able to Google any question about adjusting your pictures by going to Google and asking the question.
Right.
That's another way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, Claire, you want to close up?
Okay. On behalf of Florida Artist Group, thank you for joining us for Rosa
Valladares.
Rosa Valladares.
Yes,
Never heard
Rosa.
that name before. I'm so sorry. And her presentation, Easy DPI and Pixels. We hope you have enjoyed this live presentation. A link to the video recording of this presentation will be sent to you in the next few days. At the end of the session, a short survey will be sent to you. I hope you will reply. Some programs still have openings, so review our roster of events and register by visiting www.floridaartistgroup.org. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.